Kiana Martin, founder of Eat Soccer. And I'm so excited to have with us today Katie Chambers. And we're going to be talking about how one cello is on a mission to make their mark in New York City. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Let me pull up, oh my goodness, let me get one thing really quickly. Sorry about that. I always have my list of questions on here. I was so busy chatting. So for attendees that are in the chat with us, feel free to ask a question while Katie is talking and I'm talking with her, and then we'll address them either throughout the conversation or towards the end. So Katie, tell us, how did you develop this love for the cello?
So let's see where to start. So it kind of all happened in high school, and I can feel myself being groomed as like a sports playing lacrosse. I'm from Maryland, so that's what we do here. And I could feel that kind of happening, but I was getting pulled in this other direction to play the cello at the school, you know, at our high school, and was getting accolades there and was being encouraged by teachers to take private lessons outside of school. And it just kind of snowballed into that. And I think the cello is great. I think it's so versatile and underused. That's coming around more and more nowadays, but how it becomes a focal point in a lot of compositions and stuff. So it's just really exciting and I've been trying to play a lot of violin music on the cello, which makes the violinists upset, but it's okay. They've had it too good for too long.
So what about this interest what about this instrument sparked an interest in you becoming a professional musician?
So I love the way well, the first thing is you have to sit down. So you are always sitting. You're always gonna find a nice chair to sit in, which is really nice. But it was just like the reaction from other people about, oh, I didn't know the cello could sound like this. Like, oh, your cello sounds like a bass when you play it like that. And I'm like, yeah, it can sound like a bass, or it can sound like a percussive instrument, or it can take a big, crazy, soaring melody and be really high and sound like a bird, or it can be really low and sound like, I know, an elephant or crying tears. So it's so versatile. And for a long time in the literature of people composing for cello, it wasn't used that way. They would use pianos and violins and stuff, and flutes and trumpets to, you know, give the melody to. But now, you know, it's time for the cello to take the melody and take the lead. Oh.
So as you mentioned, since a lot of the sheet music was, I guess, created in a way to kind of make the cello sound a particular way, what are some of the things that you've done to help highlight the diversity of how the cello can be used?
Well, a lot of inserting myself into places maybe I shouldn't. So playing on like gospel albums and playing on jazz albums and playing in every Broadway sort of musical and every genre of music I can get my hands on. So that's been it's a really fun, it's a challenge for sure, and a really fun experience. And then another thing I've been doing, especially like with the quarantining and all, but I've been doing it for a long time, is just taking popular songs that we all love and playing them on solo cello. One track, rewriting the music to fit our instrument. So if you were to go to my YouTube page, you would see just like all these random songs, and most of them are people that have come to me, like Come and Get Your Love on the cello, a Justin Timberlake song, Maroon 5, like all of these crazy songs that I would have never picked. But I'm like, yeah, I will make that work. I will make that work for you. And it does.
So pretty much what you have to do in order to create new sounds for your cello, or to broaden what you feel the cello can do, is that you have to take the current sheet music and rewrite it.
That's a big thing. Yeah, that's a thing. I did it once for a wedding. A friend of mine was getting married. Like, I really liked this song, and I was like, oh, what? So then I rewrote it for cello, and I just started doing it for you know, all these other songs, and then come like a couple years later, I have like this whole collection of original sheet music for solo cello, but it's just like these different songs from all these different genres. But that's the solo cello thing. But then my favorite is like inserting the cello into like different gospel, jazz, Broadway, you know, hard rock, singer-songwriter. That's kind of the most fun and rewarding to when you work with the other people and they look at you like, oh, you sound like a bass, or like you sound like a trumpet here. Like take this sax solo, but put it on the cello.
Oh, nice.
Stuff like that.
So if they need a bass player and can't find one, you actually can fill it in with your cello.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's I kind of have to, you know, just get in there and weasel like, who is this crazy lady with your giant instrument? And I'm like, no, I could do it. It'll sound great. I promise. So that's the most fun.
So as far as learning to write music or rewrite music, is that something you learned formally or you taught yourself to do?
When you go to conservatory, you have to like have a like masterful understanding of how music is written and stuff. But so reading all the clefs, knowing time signatures, keys, and what actually works on your instrument and what, you know, is physically possible to do. But it was a lot of trial and error of what sounds good. Do I need to do all these chords? What notes can I leave out? That sort of thing. So I feel like there is an evolution of, and I'm still evolving. I still want it to like become funner and cooler than the last one. So, but formal training, there is some basic level knowledge that you need to know for sure. But other than that, it's just being creative.
How often do you currently practice? And are you able to practice where you live? Because I know you live in Brooklyn. And
right.
It's a lot of people there.
Yeah, we're all on top of each other. But like the thing is, there's a guy playing trumpet down the street, and he's way louder than me. So I'm not worried about it. I'll play cello and be fine. But I know that it's a concern for a lot of people, and especially like a lot of my students who are starting out, and they're kind of like, does this even sound good? You know, so I get that worry. And I always say practice. You can practice with a nice practice mute. There's also, if you want to go there and do this, you can get an electric cello. And an electric cello, like my electric keyboard, I can plug in headphones. Okay. It's covered with sheet music, right? It looks more like it's a piano, I swear. But you can play your cello and it's really, really quiet, but you plug it into headphones through like a amp, and then you can just, and that has made a big difference for a lot of students, if that's an issue you have. Also, even when you're starting out, the cello is still like this dark, lovely tone, and it's still kind of nice to listen to. So
it doesn't sound like creaky sometimes when people are playing.
Right, well that's a very violin. If you're starting on violin, please practice during like regular business hours. But I try not to practice like in crazy hours, and I don't recommend anybody do that. That's when you definitely need like some sort of designated space that's soundproof and all that stuff. But how much before I would practice when we're not quarantining, I would practice only if I had something coming up. So if I had a concert that weekend, I would practice for that concert. And that's kind of gets into like me not, during the quarantine's been really nice because I get time to just, everyone's doing that Burt Bacharach song, All the World Needs Love. I'm going to do that on solo cello. I would have never done that if we weren't quarantining. So things like that I get to do, which will be fun.
Now, how often, are you still playing the same cello that you've been playing for years? Do you have a name for it? I know most people give their instruments or things that are near and dear to them a nickname.
Well, I didn't give him his name. That's his name. I have Okay. So my cello was made in 2000 by a Chinese man in Alabama. So I'm its only owner. I've had it its whole life.
Wow.
And when it came and I saw it and when he started playing, I was like, oh, this is Charlie. It's nice to meet you.
Aww.
It's nice to meet you. But now he's like, we're 19, 20 years later. He's getting a little older. Maybe he's like a Chuck now or a Charles. I don't think he's a Charles. But it's so funny that some people have their instruments for centuries and still play them, and mine's just 20 years old. But I think he's awesome. I think he's so versatile, especially for what I want to do. I want to play music that was written now. So it's good to have a cello that was made now versus a cello that was made hundreds of years ago and wasn't meant to play Bach or some Beatles tune or something.
Really? So the instrument, when it's made, can actually affect its capabilities in some way?
I don't think so, but in my mind, it's like it wasn't meant to do this sort of craze that I wanted to do. It's like its whole identity was just be in the background, lay down a nice bass line for the violins and piano to just soar and sing over. And now it's like we're flipping that. I'm gonna do the singing. So it's cool to have an instrument that's, yeah, Charlie's like, yeah, let's go. Let's do that.
Well, I hear that the cello is the closest sounding instrument to the human voice.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And so it seems that you are helping people to be introduced to all of the different sounds and ways that it can be used.
Yeah, I love it. So it's really pushing that creativity brain portion. So
I know you're on a mission to change the face of the cello.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for you?
Well, originally when I started saying that, it was like cello when I was growing up was like very old white man. Now there's anything wrong with that. They're great, but there weren't a lot of women. There weren't a lot of people of color. There weren't a lot of LGBT sort of folks. And now that's changing and that's so beautiful. But I also want to make it like cello can be fun. I play a lot of fun songs on the cello versus like being it so serious and dark. And most of the time people hire like Yo-Yo Ma to play at people's funerals. So like someone has to die to like get to play the cello. And it's like, no. It's for way more than that. So that's kind of just like, it's fun. It's funny, quirky. Like, look at this very serious instrument playing this silly song. I like that juxtaposition.
Can you show us Charlie?
Yeah, he's right here.
Yay!
He's right here.
So for students that are interested in possibly looking into the cello or convincing their parents to let them try the cello, what is, in your opinion, what's the easiest way that they can get started or can they find used instruments or?
Totally, they can find used instruments. I know like a lot of the like hardcore like major youth orchestra programs across the country at least, they have instruments just laying around. So if you just Google search your town at youth symphony orchestra, they will definitely help you get an instrument. And then also it's easy to convince your parents that you want to play the cello because it's the only thing it's just big, but you can get a nice case and it'll be fine. Just you'll promise to take care of it. But when you practice, it always sounds great. It's not like a violin, that screechy kind of crunchy sound. It's not that. It always sounds great.
Eli would like to know, do you tune your instrument every day or how often do you do it?
Every day. You got to check it every day.
Really?
Yeah. It's only 4 strings, so it's not that big of a deal. And it's usually not that far off. But I always want to be sure. Because, like, what if I start playing and I'm like, it sounds crazy? Like, is it me? Can I even do this anymore? So I tune it every day. But you just move these little doodads down here. Boop, boop, boop. Uh-huh. Like a little bit here and there. Yeah. And it's all about, especially with like these instruments, the electric instruments, they don't change as much, but these instruments, they bend and move with the humidity in the air, and if it gets too dry, and it's kind of nuts.
So when it comes to traveling, what are the precautions you have to take with Charlie?
Yeah. So there's a number of things. Usually what I like to do is I like to bring this bow. And so I'll tell you a story. I am in Annapolis right now only because I was supposed to drop my dog off with my parents and then get on a plane in Baltimore and go to do a riverboat cruise through Europe for like 10 days or something.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, it would have been, but it was like, I'm driving down. I have my suitcase full of like gowns and cellos and strings and all this kind of stuff. So I get down, I'm driving down, and on the way down, the whole thing gets canceled. This is like March the 15th or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like when it all went down, and I'm like, oh no. Oh my gosh. So I go to my parents' house, and all I have to wear are like gowns clothes to perform cello in, and I'm like, no, I need pajama pants. But my plan was to bring this bow on the cruise and then get a cello in Budapest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was my plan. So it's waiting there for me whenever I get there. But
Now,
that's always fun.
quick question. How were you going to transport 2 cellos? Would you just ship it, or?
Well, I brought this cello down to practice on.
To practice? Oh,
so
you were going to play.
Yeah, so we're gonna practice for like a few days, and then we would leave like the following like Tuesday or something, and then go to Budapest and get the cello there. That was the plan. Wow. None of that happened. Oh my gosh, it's so nuts. What a weird world this is. But
yes. So are you going to show us something on Charlie, or?
I can. This is like probably one of the most famous. There's that one.
Yeah.
So that was written, a long, long time ago, in the time by Bach, where the cello was just used as a bass instrument for people to think. But Bach was like, no, the cello could make this beautiful sound. Let me write this for him. So it kind of started with him, and then we're slowly, 300 something years later, getting to play. This is like another one. That's like the spectrum. So that's a fun one.
What has been one of your most memorable performances thus far, and why?
Okay, so I don't know if I should say, it happened a while ago. I did play a famous Canadian pop star's wedding to a Baldwin relative.
Wait.
Yeah,
what?
I mean, yeah. It was so crazy. It was so crazy because I didn't know. They were just like, can you go down to South Carolina on a Monday?
I was thinking that. I'm from South Carolina, and I remember hearing that they were married.
They brought them all down there, all of them. It was like a TMZ convention. Yeah. They were all there. It's beautiful. Yeah. It was hot. It was hot.
Yes, we love it hot down here.
It was hot, but it was great. It was great. But I just thought, it was like, who is getting married on a Monday?
Now, how did you receive this opportunity? Because that's
Yeah, it's huge. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if I should talk about it, but it happened to me.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I was working with a kind of a company when I lived in DC that does like very, very high-end weddings in DC, Watergate Hotel, all these, you know, very things that I can't book on my own. And then when I moved to New York, like, oh, we have a New York office. Okay. And then I just got in good with them. And they were like, hey, are you free? And that time, they brought a cello in for me. I flew down with this bow, and they got me a South Carolinian cello.
Oh.
And it was just great. I loved it very much.
That's wonderful. So what is the competition like for a celloist, or cellist rather, in New York City?
It's competition.
As far as for opportunities, and I know that you're creating kind of your own lane with the cello, but I can imagine there are other people, professionals in the city, who are vying for some of the same jobs. Or
yeah, there's I moved to New York City because I know you're gonna ask like the dream job question, and I'll just do it right now. I moved to New York to play cello on Broadway, and there's only so many Broadway shows, and there's only so many shows that even require string instruments, and there's only so many shows that even require a cello. So within that, it's just like a really small niche of people. But I just love that. I just love that genre, and that making art with like that visual artist, that singer, that lighting, that, you know, oh, it's amazing. But everyone I've met has been super just amazing and giving and willing, and you need to meet this person, go talk to them, go, you know, contact them, email them, send this person your stuff. And you're like, oh, okay. So there's and it's just a lot of, and that whole Broadway world is literally making friends with people, and then they hire you. And that's it. There's no, like, it's not an audition process like the stage actors have to go through. We don't really mess with that. You show up, you do the work, and if you do a good job, you get asked back. If you don't do a good job, you don't get asked back. And I guess and everyone I've met has just been super, super supportive and really, really nice. But that's just on cello, so I don't want to speak for the other instruments. I've heard some horror stories.
Aww.
But everybody on cello and string is like really, really great. So, but it's a lot of like, if you can't do something, you get asked to play record something or play this wedding or play this show, and you can't do it. It's great to just have a collection of people that you trust that can do it. So next time they can still come to you. They hope you come to them first and you're able to do these opportunities.
What has been the oddest place that you've been asked to play or found yourself playing?
The oddest place. I remember in DC there were these parties of like, we want to do a 100th anniversary party of the Rite of Spring, and everybody's going to dress up like it's 100 years ago, and we're going to pretend we saw Rite of Spring, which is like, Rite of Spring is a ballet with their hair was down and they weren't wearing ballet shoes and they're like stomping, and it was a riot. So we have to pretend we're rioting, and I'm playing the cello in the corner in a big gown, and I was just like, what is going on? It was, but it turned out to be so much fun. It was one of the funnest ones. And then that same group of people had another party, the 20th anniversary of the Berlin Wall coming down. So we all had to dress up like it's 1980, whatever, I don't even remember. But there's like famously like Rostropovich sat there and played all the Bach cello suites, just from memory, like 36 pieces of music.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm just gonna do one, and everybody else can do other stuff. But oh yeah, that I didn't know those two parties were gonna be so fun, but they were just like, because they sound so odd. But I was like, oh yeah, that's so fun. It was so fun, so genius.
What are some of the funny or stressful things that happen in your line of work as a professional musician?
So, funny things that happen, just things like those two shows happen. And for a while there, I was touring around with a ukulele singer-songwriter for a long time. And so to have, when you go to like a ukulele convention, which we would go to a lot, I come in with this clearly not a ukulele, and everyone's like, what are you doing here? What is going on? But it's just so, and all the comments, but then we start playing and you're like, oh, this makes sense. Because we loved it, because the ukulele, okay, this might be offensive, but it's kind of like a little joke. It's like a little toy that you give to kids, and you're like, oh, ukulele, and the cello is like very serious. Mm-hmm. So when you put the two together, it makes the cello more fun and it makes the ukulele more serious. So it's like putting those two ends of the spectrum together, and we made some really cool art.
So when you first arrived in New York City, what were some of the ways that you have created opportunities for yourself and the cello, be it on gospel albums or with, church performances? I've seen you do that. I've even seen your cello at a wrestling match. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but how have you created these opportunities for yourself?
Oh yeah, that's a funny one too. That I was playing the national anthem. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, that's a friend of mine. It was so great. But just kind of you just gotta be a little nosy, and knowing you're being a little nosy, like, hi, I'm new here. I'm really good. Here's all my information. I'm friends. A friend of mine that I worked with in DC is friends with you, told me to reach out to you. Here's my contact information if you ever need a cellist. A lot of that. The one big one was the company that I used to work for that I go around to all the weddings. But a lot of it is just relationships. All of this that we do is like relationships. And then I also teach cello too. I don't know if that's obvious. So like I have a degree, like I have a master's degree in playing the cello. So it's really, not that it's easy to get hired as a cello teacher, but that's a nice, foot in the door moment. And you meet a lot of other great players that way, because most everybody teaches, I think. So yeah, but I think the biggest one is being a little nosy and like, oh, who's your friend? Can I get their email? Or friend them on Facebook, and friends of friends and that kind of stuff. And telling everybody that you're moving to New York City. Somebody has to know somebody that has to know somebody that will be your friend. And be your friend and hire you.
Yeah. So how do you pitch yourself, especially for opportunities where they need a bassist or they need a violin, but you're like, I literally can do this with my cello. How are you selling yourself?
I just send them YouTube clips of myself doing, it won't be like their bass part, but it'll be a bass part or taking a solo line. That's the easy way. But if I have to like just verbally tell them, that's a little trickier. But I think the biggest way is that they can see it. They see it on YouTube. YouTube is great. I think it's the greatest thing ever. And now we have like Zoom, and I can just like, because I can do this. I can do, bass lines.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, are you literally doing that when you're imitating?
Yeah. I can just, it's not that hard.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah. It came out of necessity. Like Katie, you're out of school, you have to make money, go do something. Because there's not really like out of most college experiences, you can get an internship in your field and then you get a job. And that doesn't really happen so much in this. You just gotta, go, fly, make a living. And and you just make stuff up. You gotta be creative. Or you could just get a symphony job. That's another thing. But that seems too easy. Just sit in a symphony. Why would I want to do that?
Outside of your dream to continue playing on Broadway, what other dreams do you have for yourself and your cello?
I think I think like the ultimate goal that probably somebody told me once, you need a goal that you can't really like be like a higher calling, almost like it can't reach the goal. It's just like literally just make sure everybody knows somebody that plays the cello and that they like that person and that person is a good person and they'll come to the shows and they'll be supportive. And I just want everyone and want to have and I would love everyone to just either know what a cello is or have tried to play it, or they know someone who plays cello and who they want to be friends with. Because that my image of a cellist growing up was like somebody that I did not want to be friends with, somebody that was very standoffish, and so I don't want that to be the face of cello. I want to be a new face of cello. That opening. That's why I named my whole program Kinship Music Studios. It's like coming together, and for a long time I was giving cello lessons and piano lessons in people's houses. So I was like, bring it to you here, let's play, you know. That was my whole thing for a long time.
Eli has another question for you. He wants to know, do you have a French or German bow?
I think, well, French or German bow is like really a bass thing, but this is like more of a French bow, I think. But I think it was made in Germany, but the style of it is French. That's on my bows. So it looks like that. But I think it's made in Germany with Brazilian wood and the horsehairs from Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah.
For students who are interested in learning more about the cello, what resources do you suggest that they look at? And do you even have availability for students to train with you?
For sure. Just,
under you, rather.
Yeah, send me an email, kinshipmusicstudios@gmail.com. But always taking new students over Zoom would be so fun. Also, there's a great website, cellobello.org, which is all things cello, from if you're just beginning or if you're super touring around the world doing cello concertos. And then also, if you're like a student and you want to get a cello, just simply Google the name of your town and youth orchestra. They can help you out. I'm sure they have them lying around, or they have access to them. And that's any classical instrument. So it's out there. It's easy to do. And I think the biggest barrier of entry is just getting the instrument. Once you have one, then it'll sound so great.
Lastly, what's the best piece of career advice you would give your younger self?
Oh man, the best piece of career advice I always come back to was given to me by a conductor, and she said, "There's always, if you're willing to work hard, there's always room for you in the music business." And so I always have to come back, like maybe I didn't write enough emails today, or I'll make one more video. There's always room for you. And I guess another thing I would have said is just like be mindful of every single person you meet, because you never know in the future that person could become the next, Joshua Bell, or the next, Lin-Manuel Miranda or something. So in making those relationships, and because you never know.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to submit them now. And where can people follow you, Katie?
Instagram and Twitter are katiethecellist.com, or @KatieTheCellist. And then my email is Kinship Music Studios. My YouTube is Kinship Music Studios. Yeah, I think those are the best ones.
Well, I think that's all of our questions for today.
Yeah.
Thank everyone for tuning in. Our next quarantine break is at 1 o'clock, and it is going to be A Vision That Blooms with floral designer Yumeris Coromina. So thank you so much again, Katie.
Nice meeting you guys. Thank you.
Okay.